Joining me now is a member of the Israeli Parliament, the UKIP party, Dan Illouz, who's with us. Dan, good evening to you. Let's look at that humanitarian response. Has Israel handled their response on this, or their responsibility even, appropriately, do you think? Good evening.
Good evening. Israel is a law-abiding country. We go according to international law. We've always done that. It's true about trying to warn civilians before we attack Hamas infrastructures, and it's also true about humanitarian needs in the Gaza Strip. We've always been a law-abiding country, but after the massacres that we've seen on October 7th and the level of evil that we've seen there, then we're not willing to do anything more than what is necessary according to international law, especially when we know that Hamas has used traditionally all of the humanitarian aid in order to benefit its military actions and not to benefit the civilian. And so we've allowed water, food, medications to come into the Gaza Strip, but unfortunately fuel is something that Hamas hoards. It uses it in order to stay in those terror tunnels that exist all around Gaza, where they're currently hiding in a very cowardly way, by the way, hiding there and leaving the civilians on the top. And it's using these fuels in order to stay there, in order to hide. And it's not something that we can accept. And as long as we abide by what we need to, according to international law, we won't do anything extra other than that.
So your contention is, Dan, that there is enough supplies, there is enough fuel. It is simply being taken by Hamas and used for their ends, as distinct from the humanitarian purpose.
You can see the different pictures that come from where Hamas is, and you see they have electricity and light and everything that they need. The problem isn't that there isn't fuel, it's that it's being used for a very specific purpose, which is, of course, military purposes from this terror group. And we cannot allow more fuel to come into Gaza in order to help this terrorist organization.
So that would, from your perspective, that is as good as essentially you arming Hamas.
Exactly, and that's not something that we can do. I want to remind the viewers, Hamas has been proven to be one of the worst regimes history has known. They've burnt babies alive, babies, burning babies alive, raped women and flaunted them around. They've abducted elderly that they're still keeping in Gaza without their medication. We can't allow them to just weaponize themselves or get the gas they need in order to stay hidden in those terror tunnels and then help them get stronger. That's not an option for us. The only option is to completely eradicate this evil regime. I heard that you spoke a few minutes ago about the comments of the UN Secretary General. I want to tell you a little bit about the perspective that we see here in Israel. We see people trying to find the middle ground between Hamas and Israel. Hamas, which is this horrible terrorist organization, and Israel, which is this modern democracy, liberal democracy. And to us, it's just like people trying to find a middle ground between the Nazis and the free world in World War II, or between ISIS and its victims, either in the Middle East or in Europe. There's good and bad in this world, and Hamas is bad, it's evil. Israel isn't always perfect. You can criticize things about Israel, and that's legitimate. But when we're talking about this specific conflict between this evil that has been seen on October 7th in the Hamas massacre, it's very clear-cut. There's good and there's evil, and Israel is the good side here, and Hamas is the evil side.
Do you think, just a final question, that those comments from Mr. Guterres from the United Nations, are they likely to compromise your relationship now with other Western countries, people that you would look at ordinarily as being allies?
I actually find that all of the free world is very united in this cause because they understand that Hamas is the face of evil right now. We're not talking about Palestinian civilians. We're not talking about anything else. We're talking about Hamas and the atrocious things that they did on October 7th. The free world has been very united, and I believe that this will go on as we move along in this military operation.
Dan, thank you. Dan Illouz, member of the Israeli Parliament in Netanyahu's UKIP party. Thank you to him.